Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Hey, I just got a Corvette, and I don't even own New Balances or jean shorts or even one of those cool folding chairs. So, what say we go find out why I bought one? Let's go.
Hey everybody, Ahmad here from Modifications, and today I am excited to show you my new C5, new to me, C5 Corvette. So if you know anything about my purchase history, this is a fairly non-traditional purchase for me. Sold my Miata a couple months ago and I got about $21,000 for it, and that really was my budget for my next car. Having that sort of a budget, especially even in a tough used market like this, is tough. I like all sorts of cars. I was really torn about what I should actually purchase. Should I purchase a classic muscle car, an older maybe Z? I'll talk a little bit about some of the other cars I considered, but really I ended up with this. And in this video, what I want to do is cover why did I end up with a C5 Corvette. I'm not the target segment. I wasn't really in the market for a C5 Corvette. In fact, I wasn't even in the market for a Corvette. So today I want to show you what won me over to this car. I'll talk about some of the things that I actually really started liking about this and then put it at the top of my list and eventually made a purchase.
So, reason number one, I feel like is probably the most obvious. It's that V8, this guy right behind me. This car does have the LS1, and I know most people will be like, well, that's the slowest LS. It's 350 horsepower, 360 pounds of torque. So slow is relative. You know, compared to obviously modern day LS, it is pretty slow, relatively speaking. However, I've been driving this for about a month and a half now, and I actually really like the way it feels. The power band between, 3,500 to 6,000 RPM is awesome. It's got a good amount of torque. It pulls, and it pulls hard. Although I'm not really foreign to the V8 world, I've had a couple of Mustang GTs with the Coyote in them. This is my first LS, and I'm really excited about it because this platform is proven, it's older, it's been around for a while, and there's tons of aftermarket support, which I'll talk about a little bit on some of the other things I like about this car. But at the end of the day, my choices were between, a 4-cylinder turbo, a 6-cylinder, maybe a 6-cylinder twin turbo supercharged or something, and a V8. And I hadn't had a V8 in a while, and living in Texas, I feel like you kind of just have to buy a V8. And this one is bone stock. And let's not forget about the manual transmission. So one of my biggest requirements was manual transmission. A V8 and a manual transmission is just a great combination no matter who you are. This transmission is great. I absolutely love the way it feels. People might criticize it, and I'm not sure, maybe they're just spoiled by other cars, but to me, the way this car shifts, the way the notchiness feels, it's really good out of the factory. Another thing I really like about the transmission is the way you sit in the car and how your hand just falls right onto the shifter. It's a really, really fun and easy to drive 6-speed manual. All right, reason number two, convertible. So originally when I sold my Miata, I wasn't really planning on having a convertible. I wasn't even really making it a requirement for myself. However, the Miata did spoil me a little bit. I love driving around with the top down in the Miata. In the summers, it was a little tough in Texas, but it was something that I knew I was gonna miss. So when I started looking, it wasn't really on the top of my list, but when I found out that you can have one of these with a Targa top, I was immediately sold. Now, a big reason I didn't buy the the C5 Z06 is because of price. But another reason was that you can't get the Targa top with the C5 Z06. You can only get the standard coupe design, I believe is what they call it. Now, the really cool thing about this car was that it actually came with two tops. So it comes with this clear black top, the one that kind of is more of a glass top. Now, I do prefer the black kind of see-through top because it does also brighten up the darker cabin. And I also like the way the black look against the silver. It kind of breaks up the very monotonous silver color of this car. And then it comes with a color matched silver top as well. And I'm not sure if that was something that you bought separately or if the car came with both, but mine came with both and they're both in mint condition. And the really cool part about that also is that in the back, there's actually a space to take that top off and actually put it into the trunk hatch space. And there's these little mounts that actually hold it in place. That might be pretty standard for when it comes to cars that are convertible, but to me this was kind of a new selling point, and honestly pretty cool for a smaller sports car. As a bonus selling point for this car, I mentioned the top was really cool. A big reason I didn't buy the Z06, outside of price obviously, but this hatch space. This hatch space is massive. It's actually much bigger than you would anticipate for a car, you know, kind of targeted to be more of a sports car to be. Huge amounts of space. Absolutely love it. It's completely more useful than the hatch or the trunk in a Miata. So that was a big selling point. The other thing I actually have really liked about this is putting a rear view camera, lighting, all that kind of stuff is a lot easier because it's really easy to get to the hatch and kind of work around the trim. Another thing that I was looking for was aftermarket support. I've had a couple cars, including the EV6 and the Buick Regal Touareg, that just didn't have much aftermarket support. Obviously, they're either fairly new or they were just not very popular cars. So this time when I bought my third car, I wanted to make sure that it had a nice library of aftermarket parts, whether that's performance, looks, suspension, whatever you want to call it. This car, it's 20 years old. It's been an enthusiast car for a while. It's fairly sporty, so there's a lot of support out there. Now you won't find too many like aesthetic body parts. You'll see a lot of lip kits and some splitters and spoilers. Pretty nice spoiler selection actually. But there is a lot of stuff to do to this car, and you know, from a power perspective, you can make gobs of power on this. And also suspension wise, there's plenty of options. I just replaced the suspension with Bilstein V8s, and then I was like, oh, I should go coilovers because this car has leaf suspension. I can make this car my own. I can build it, I would say. I hate that word, but I could build it the way I want to use it. And another main question a lot of people might have is, what do I plan on doing with this car? And I thought that's gonna change the answer on what modifications I should do. But as of right now, I just want to get this thing handling well, performing well, and just be very reliable. So I don't know exactly what the end goal is here, but I'm just excited to have it. So another big selling point was reliability. I was looking for something a little bit more reliable, but also something that I could get parts for and also find support for. This engine, as I mentioned, has been around for a long time. A lot of Corvette support out there, lots of aftermarket. The LS itself has tons of aftermarket, as well as how-to videos and maintenance videos. Everything is available on this car. So when I started researching the Corvette a little bit more, it made my decision a little bit easier, knowing that I can ask a question and I'll probably get the response very quickly. And if I can't do some of the basic maintenance, there's tons of shops around here that'll do it. I'm not saying the Miata wasn't reliable, but when you add aftermarket forced induction, you're always worried about something going wrong, and also, can every shop work on it? All those kind of things. But there's lots of Corvette support, especially here in the Dallas market. I'm not too worried about doing some of the basic maintenance on this car. I've already messed with the suspension and it's super easy. And I'm not really too worried about the LS blowing up or anything like that, especially with the power that I plan on making with this car. Another reason I was really sold on the Corvette was just to be able to learn a new platform. Earlier this year, I also sold my Kia Stinger and traded in for a Golf R. That was actually my first dive into the European platform. It's my first European car, I would say. Just like that, this is my first LS car. And it really excited me to be able to sell my other car, a format that I was familiar with for almost 5 years, and really learn something new, especially something that tons of people have done so much work already on, that I can just dive in and learn everything about this platform. This platform is very developed, and it's taught me a lot, even just in the last month or so, about how far this car has come. It's just fun. It's fun learning something new. This was one of the cars that I kind of ridiculed my whole life, and now I have one, and I'm excited to learn about it. Is the C5 probably the best format to learn a Corvette on? Probably not, but I definitely don't like the C4, sorry. And I couldn't afford a C6. So I think the C5 was priced where it is. It's a pretty good step in the right direction for a Corvette. And just, I think it's a really good introductory car to this world. So that, for the most part, covers the main reasons I bought the Corvette. I'd love to hear people's thoughts. You know, if you've been in this position, if you've done that change, especially coming from very different platforms, leave a comment. I'd be curious to see kind of what your thoughts are, and what have you done to the car? What do you recommend I do to the car? I've got a small list that we'll cover here in a second. Really excited to kind of dive into this and hear other people's opinions on this platform that's been around forever.
So with such an extensive list of aftermarket parts available, where am I going to start? With this car, just because it's about 20 years old, I plan on doing a lot of maintenance items. So first on the list will be maintenance, including my seats, some suspension work, as well as my dimmed HVAC switch. I want to make sure this thing works perfectly before I really dive deep into it. And then you'll see a good mixture of looks, exhaust handling, and maybe some power mods later on down the line. Until then, I want to get this thing working perfectly and just enjoy it. I hope you choose to join me on my journey with this car, and also just make comments and suggestions down below. Otherwise, please subscribe, because I know a lot of you watch and don't subscribe, but that would be very helpful. Thanks, and see you all soon.